colleagues. As responsible for the groundwater resources activities in the Intergovernmental Hydrological Program in the Secretariat of the IHP, and responsible for the organization of the ISARM2021 conference, I have the pleasure to moderate today the closing ceremony of the conference. In the program, we will start with summarizing the 5 topics of the conference, key messages, findings, recommendations, and I hope lesson learned. The book of abstract of the conference is already available in the web page, so I really suggest all of you to have a look at it. There are very interesting case studies and experiences on transboundary aquifers there. By the presentations of the members of the team of the technical program committee of the conferences, we will then go to listen about the main findings of the topics. I would like to start then already giving the floor to Raya Marina Stefan. Marina Stefan is an international law expert. She is one of the few experts on really transboundary aquifers law. And in particular, she has been a member of the UNESCO team for many, many years when UNESCO was the advisory to the United Nations International Law Commission for the preparation of the draft articles on the law of transboundary aquifers. And she will give us some summary about the topic 1. Raya, please.
Great. Thank you, Alice. Thank you for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, or good evening, wherever you are on this globe. So I have the pleasure to present to you the summary of topic 1, which relates to the contributions of transboundary aquifers to sustainable development goals and regional agendas. Actually, I believe that throughout the conference and throughout all the rich sessions and panels that we had, that this topic, though it was the first topic of the conference, was transversal to all the other topics, and that in the other sessions we also heard how transboundary aquifers contribute to the achieving the sustainable development goals and regional agendas. Throughout the conference, and I think this we all know this even before attending the conference, that transboundary aquifers are an important component for the achievements of the sustainable development goals and other regional agendas. We have heard it since the first panel, and we have heard it throughout the 4 days of the conference. And we have also there was also a wide acknowledgement that the ISARM program, with its results and achievements, represent a widely recognized contribution and support toward the realization of these agendas. The program has initiated an awareness on the importance of transboundary aquifers through its worldwide and regional developments. So since 2 decades, since its establishment 20 years ago, the program continues to inspire countries to make progress on transboundary aquifers characterization, assessment, modeling, and to develop transboundary aquifers governance and shared management. Progress in legal issues, which 20 years ago did not exist, is also notable with the development of regional initiatives for promoting the establishment of the legal institutional frameworks for transboundary aquifer cooperation based on the guidance of the draft articles of the International Law Commission on the law of transboundary aquifers. If we look specifically at the Sustainable Development Goals, and despite all the efforts under the ISARM program and others, the world is not on track to achieve the SDGs, not only the specific target on cooperation 6.5.2, but also all the other SDGs that are related to water and that are related to water. Progress on institutionalizing cooperation is still challenged by the lack of knowledge and lack of communication and understanding between scientists and decision makers, as we have heard in many discussions that took place during these 4 days of conference. So challenges remain that need to be addressed to reach the closest possible the Sustainable Development Goals and other regional agendas. These challenges relate, first of all, to the lack of data. We have heard the issue of the lack of data throughout the 4 days, the lack of data knowledge and the lack of sharing and harmonization between the countries. This is a major challenge that needs to be overpassed. But not also the lack of data of knowledge, but also capacities to support and sustain the data collection and the development of knowledge and to ensure the reporting exercise under the SDGs. Funding is also a need, but funding needs to be streamlined with the framework of the countries. And finally, the key issue here is governance. Governance is the key, because if we have all the best technical and engineering solutions, all these can be available. However, without strong governance, they cannot last. International water law and the related instrument, the UN Water Courses Convention, the UNECE Water Convention, and moreover, the draft articles on the law of transboundary aquifers represent important tools for accelerating cooperation on transboundary aquifers and achieving the SDGs. Cooperation on transboundary aquifers is important beyond the management of the water resource itself, or for achieving SDG 6 and achieving target 6.5.2. It is also important for achieving other SDGs, ending poverty, reaching food security, economic growth, protection of ecosystems, and for adapting to climate change. It is also fundamental for the realization of the human right to safe drinking water and sanitation, which is at the core of the realization of all human rights. I would like, however, to conclude on a positive note. The work on target 6.542 has showed that we are not on track, as I had already said, and that the results are so far insufficient. But it has boosted the interest and the awareness for initiating and reaching a common knowledge and understanding of transboundary aquifers and their joint management, which will be the driver for the future developments. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Raya. There was a real attention to summarize and to take note of all the debates and the dialogues and the presentation in the sessions, because we have programmed to have a full book of papers and to present and to print the main outcomes of the conference next year, considering that next year will be a special year for groundwater. And I would like now to call Madame Karen Withold. She is the International Senior Manager of the Water Management Institute, IWMI, Principal Researcher, but she's also the coordinator of GRIP, in which many agencies, including UNESCO, are hand in hand working on groundwater. Karen, can you summarize a little bit about the topic number 2 and tell us what it was? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alice, for the introduction. And thank you for giving me the privilege today to give some feedback and observations around topic 2 of this conference. First of all, I'd like to thank the organizers, especially UNESCO, and all partners who's been making this conference a resounding success. And I think we have to congratulate ourselves and everybody for achieving this and being here today at this crossroad where we are sort of finalizing and summing up the outcomes. So relating to topic 2 that I've been tasked to look at, I think I will only come up with some observations. I will not go into a lot of details, but I think there's some important points to bring out. And the topic 2 deals with the science policy interface. And I think we all agree that this is a very critical one. From my point of view, I think we need to to see this interface sort of in the broader context of science, policy, management, and governance, and see this as a very important continuum. So it's not like we only have one interface. We have a lot of interfaces, and all these interfaces have to come together to achieve the benefits and the outcomes that we are looking for. We often see science as being sort of the starting point for the work that we're doing, and it is indeed very central, but it is not necessarily, just one part and the starting point. I like to see this continuum as an iterative process, as a cyclical process, and science is not only in the beginning. Science goes through the whole process, and it continues as long as there's work around these transboundary aquifers. Science will play a key role. When we look at how the transboundary aquifers fit in, I also see this image of a sphere that we're working within. So we are now starting to carve out a niche around transboundary aquifers, and I think we are getting it on the global map, and it's very important. But I see the sphere spreading out to other spheres, if you like. So we're talking about the nexus. We're talking about, the linkage to climate change and to food and environment and all of these other sectors. And I think once we see these sectors and spheres interact and overlap, that's when we start to see the synergies. And I think we're getting somewhat towards that point, but there's still work to be done in that area so that we become seen as important as part of the larger agenda of development related to not only water security, but climate resilience, especially when we're talking about groundwater, but also food security and so on. And also the policies and so on related to the transboundary issues is, of course, very important. A couple of things that I would like to just emphasize, and I think these were highlighted by Anita, especially, the epistemological aspects of climate or of groundwater, and how we sort of frame ourselves in terms of science, making sure that we come across with coherent information. We translate the science so that it becomes easily understandable and actionable from the policymakers' side. And I think we are getting there, but there's still some work to be done. And we really need to step up on the interaction and the dialogue with the policymakers so that we increasingly understand each other. And it's a two-way process again. Policymakers have to understand what we are good in terms of creating and delivering the evidence. And we have to understand how the policymakers are coming forward and needing more the actionable information. And so that's where I think we need to maybe enhance a bit of dialogue in this science policy interface. Another point I would like to raise is sort of a discussion, I think, which came quite clear forward, is this chicken and egg challenge that we are facing with especially groundwater and transboundary aquifers. Because if we start processes too early in terms of our science and so on, it might not be seen as relevant to the policymakers, and it might not get the political buy-in that we would like to see, because we know it's very important to be upfront and proactive in terms of any actions and risks and so on that needs to be addressed. And on the other hand, if we wait till it's too late, we might get the buy-in, but it might be too late to actually come in and do the necessary actions, do the remediation and so on, and we become very reactive rather than proactive. So I think that's a schism we will never get out of, because it's based on the physical realities of groundwater being very slowly reactive, being hidden and so on. But it's something we just have to work around, and we have to try to be as proactive and because of that, make the messages clear and upfront to the decision makers. Make it relevant in terms of the risks that they have to look at, in terms of the benefits that they can achieve from working with us. And so I think that was something that came forward from Shermi especially, and I think that was very well taken. You know, we need to look at what are these frameworks in terms of risks and benefits. I also we also heard that there's a initiative in terms of developing a framework around this policy science interface that Jean-Fried is leading, and I think there's this is a good stepping stone towards addressing some of these issues and bringing the dialogue closer home. And so it's nice to see that these things are coming forward. I think I've taken up my time, and I just want to highlight and also concur with our previous speaker that we have come a long way in the last 20 years, or since the beginning of this century, and since 2010 when we had the first ISARM conference. And I think we should be proud, and I think it should be clear that we are all necessary. Policymakers, scientists, governance people, we are all necessary to reach our goals. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Karen. Thank you very much for this summary, and in particular for reminding us that, yes, we started 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and we are still there, and we will continue for sure. I would like now to call Dr. Rosario Sanchez. She's a senior research scientist at the Texas A&M University. She's the leader of the Transboundary Aquifer Assessment Act program that integrates research and data on transboundary aquifer between Mexico and Texas. Of course, I'm not able to read properly the different CVs of the technical team committee of this conference. Members are too long. Rosario, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Alice. Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for the opportunity for being here again today. It's been really a passionate week. It's been very intensive, and really, I think we all should be, as Karen said, very proud. So I'm going to speak now about topic number 3, and what I can see from my perspective are the highlights that we can take over. On the terms of advances in the assessment and mapping of transboundary aquifers and hydrological methods. I'm going to start with saying that in 2015, there were officially 366 transboundary aquifers reported by IGRAC. Today, we know there are now 468 transboundary aquifers underlying almost every nation in the world. After 7 years, almost 100 aquifers more were identified in the world, and that number will continue to grow as the pressure on groundwater increases with population growth, climate change, and surface water scarcity. We have learned there is no recipe for identifying nor for assessing transboundary aquifers. There is no size fits all. But the good news is that there is no need to. Shared aquifers do not only share waters, they also share history, localities, priorities, culture. These conditions cannot be replicated. We can indeed learn from the techniques, the principles, the processes, but the outcomes will only be a result of the specific socioeconomic and political needs of their own sharing communities. This is important to understand because we tend to idealize and look for global harmonization of processes and regulations that might not be necessary after all. And we have seen that during these 4 days. Whether the assessments are based on whole aquifer approaches, zoning, hotspots, transboundary corridors, or effective transboundary aquifer areas, as long as the sharing countries are in agreement on the approach and the fundamental principle of cooperation is outcome-driven, then the biggest challenge has been already overcome. Transboundary aquifer assessments are truly the result of convergence of scientific assessments, social interactions, networking development, and capacity building at a local level. It requires enough flexibility for adaptation to specific priorities and financial capabilities of the sharing communities. As complex as this may sound, this reality is in fact an optimistic scenario as it has opened the door for alternative techniques, protocols, tools, assessments on the way we address and understand shared groundwater resources. We have learned also there are multiple and diverse technologies used all over the world to represent the transboundary nature of aquifers and their conditions, all of them with the purpose to inform sound transboundary groundwater management. However, this convergence approach still has a long way to go. For the future, we need to think pragmatically. Groundwater science is a very complex topic, and we all know that. If we add the transboundary social, economic, and political elements to it, it becomes an overwhelming issue, hardly assessed at that scope. Numerical models have been developed and are being used more often now all around the world, along with advanced remote sensing and digital processes. But the lack of data, we have heard that already, financial support and expertise still are the main obstacles. Trust and commitment that allows for effective data sharing protocols across countries is also limiting the advancement of capabilities and technical efforts. We need to work with what is available, either data, funding, community capacity, or institutional support. It is a process that requires perseverance, patience, and permanent communication with decision makers and stakeholders. Step one, we all know that, will always be to strengthen communication channels across borders, to effectively share needs and jointly decide the way forward. We are not discovering the magic solution here. On the contrary, we are realizing that the transboundary aquifer topic offers an opportunity for creativity, not just in the development of science-driven approaches for mapping, delineating, and assessing shared aquifers, but also in the management possibilities. And I just want to close by saying that let's use the opportunity of this creativity window to be creative, to propose, to imagine, to learn from each other, to respect our difference, but above all, to finally understand that groundwater sharing notion is not limited to water. And with that, I'm closing. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosario. And I would like to say thank you, Raya. Thank you, Karen, and thank you, Rosario, for the work we have done during all 1 year and more for the preparation of this conference, and the fact that we should be proud that more and more young girls are now accessing to science and to groundwater and to the transboundary aquifer issues. Having said that, the next speaker and a member of the technical program committee for the conference is Stefano Burchi. I think he doesn't need introduction, but Stefano is the Executive Council Chair of the International Association for Water Law, AIDA. Stefano, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Alice. It's a true honor and privilege, to have been associated with this exhilarating experience of this very successful conference that I've been able to follow in part. There has been so much, so many themes and so many speakers involved. It's been virtually impossible to follow everyone on different, tables. I have tried now, I've been assigned the task to report, to act as rapporteur on topic number 4, which reads Governance of TBA, or Transboundary Aquifers, Strengthening Cooperation. Now, it has not been easy to walk through and, find some common threads or a common thread running through the diverse strands of the conversations and the debates and the discussions ignited by, the various speakers invited to the different sessions. I think there were a total of, I counted 6 sessions, if I'm not wrong, plus 2 panel discussions zooming in on this particular theme. And some of the things actually that I have seen in the debates and that have inspired, my summary, my summation, which I'm about to present, reverberate on, on other topics and on things and points that have been made by the previous speakers. Now, in an attempt, as I said, to find a common thread to the extent possible, running through the diverse strands of the conversation on this particular theme, I picked up perhaps a term that best indicates this or qualifies this common thread is synergy, synergizing, perhaps an invitation to synergize, which is key to strengthening cooperation in the governance of transboundary aquifers. Now, I will present, this the way I see and I have, read this particular, common thread running through the discussions and the debates in a sort of bullet form. So now, synergizing in what sense? In the sense that, one, to begin with, the UN draft articles on the law of transboundary aquifers are and remain the most comprehensive and authoritative reference for states on the path to strengthening cooperation in regard to transboundary aquifers. Now, their reference value and reach are bound to be amplified, acting in synergy with other branches of international law, and notably human rights law. That's where you see the synergy at work. Second point, in the pursuit of institutionalized cooperation on transboundary aquifers among states, synergies can and should be pursued, one, with existing regional organizations, and notably and foremost, transboundary river basin organizations. And we have seen, quite a sort of an emerging trend, it seems, to go in that direction towards institutionalized cooperation on transboundary aquifers and strengthening cooperation on transboundary aquifers. But the second is to pursue synergy in the context of institutionalization of cooperation, synergy with and across different levels of jurisdiction and different regulatory systems domestically, and multiple stakeholders involved also domestically on both or whatever sides of an international border dividing a transboundary aquifer. This is a point that has been made by a number of speakers in this particular group that resonates with me. It's very dear to my heart, and I'm very happy to bring it up, to the attention as a conclusion or one of the pointers, if you like, of the discussions around this particular theme. Now, again, synergy in another respect, in the sense that scientists, and this is a point that has come up time and again, and it's it runs across the different themes of the conference, scientists that work on the assessment and the characterization of transboundary aquifers, which is the level where cooperation begins usually and eventually ripens, need to synergize with policymakers and decision makers if cooperation is to mature and evolve from data collection and exchange all the way to strategizing about the future of a transboundary aquifer. And last but not least, an interesting point that I picked up is that, still in this general scheme of pursuing synergy opportunities, is that the pursuit of transboundary governance in the context of non-transboundary aquifer areas, such as notably transfrontier conservation areas, enhances opportunities for synergy across diverse spatial dimensions, different spaces, physical spaces, and opportunities for transboundary aquifer cooperation that could be missed otherwise. Right, I will stop here, Alice, and again, thank you for the privilege and the honor.
Thank you, Stefano. Thank you very much. I would like now to call Kevin Petersen. He's a research fellow of the University of Western Cape Institute for Water Studies in South Africa, and member of the conference technical committee. The floor is yours for the last summary of the last topic of the conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia. Greetings, colleagues and friends. Thank you for the opportunity to form part of this program. And let me echo my congratulations to the organizers that made this conference possible, and also the success that the conference are. So I'm reporting on topic 5, which was focused on education, capacity development, and raising awareness. As we are aware, a critical mass of knowledge workers or brokers is required to support the development of educational initiatives on transboundary water cooperation and to develop sustainable practice and guidance tools on shared water resources management, negotiations, and governance. The educational initiatives that have taken place throughout the last decade have provided critical information about the transboundary aquifers to member states and their management. The awareness raised has resulted in cooperative mechanisms and many constructive dialogues between scientists and decision makers for transboundary aquifer management. This topic was intended to highlight education, capacity development, and awareness-raising activities, and the need for continuing supporting programs that are advancing knowledge and knowledge sharing around transboundary aquifers. Unfortunately, there were not many abstracts received to the conference that was directed at this specific topic. This may be due to education capacity development and raising awareness being very much a cross-cutting issue, cutting across much of the other topics of the conference. Nevertheless, some of the issues highlighted included that knowledge and capacities need to be developed in transboundary aquifers involving key stakeholders and through initiatives where riparian countries cooperate and also own the process. Investment is also needed for capacity development to strengthen and sustain key institutions and players dealing with transboundary aquifer assessment and governance. This is necessary to support informed decision-making and cooperation. As it was stated by one of the keynote speakers, the value of water as a catalyst for development needs to be better understood, utilizing a holistic approach which capitalizes on existing experiences, mobilize partners, and allow stakeholders to contribute meaningfully. Groundwater-related knowledge, capacity development, and data availability are crucial needs for ensuring water access for all. Throughout the conference, examples were given for sub-regional cooperation on, for example, isotopes assessments in Europe, Central Asia, and Sahel Africa. Higher educational programs in MSc and GIS have started. Resource centers has been established to provide services to the public and private sector. As one of the presenters noted, for implementing policy, we need data on the ground, and to obtain data on the ground, we need capacity on the ground. We need to support this virtuous circle and understand the interlinkages. Education and capacity development is a mechanism for cooperation. There are long examples of long-standing support for capacity development. However, future attention must focus on structural challenges at organizational level within countries, respectively taking into account the social, political, and institutional environment. This includes removing bottlenecks for using digital tools for transboundary aquifer management. Lastly, capacity development is a sustained long-term process requiring a knowledge architecture. And here I would like to argue that we need to move towards focusing on local level capacity building as opposed to national or regional level capacity building. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Thank you all for accompanying UNESCO, this very large group of scientists that have worked with us for more than 1 year to prepare the topics, the sessions, looking at the abstracts, selecting the abstracts with us. I have the pleasure to have with me the Secretary of the Intergovernmental Hydrological Program, the Director of the Division of Water Sciences on my right, Dr. Abu Amani. He will close the ceremony, but not yet. We are not there yet. There are other interesting talks to listen together this afternoon. And if the Secretariat is ready, maybe we can call Mr. Federico Properzi with us. He's with us. Yes. Hi, Federico. Nice to see you this afternoon. Federico Properzi is the Chief Technical Advisor of the UN Water. As you know, the UN Water is the coordination mechanism that make the fact that all UN agencies working on water can share their activities and work together. Federico, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Alicia, and good afternoon, everybody. So, dear colleagues, it's really my great pleasure to participate in the closing plenary of the ISARM2021 conference. And really, I would like to congratulate and thank UNESCO for hosting this conference and for the invitation to speak. It's been really inspiring to hear from the rapporteurs of the different topics. And I'm particularly inspired because our efforts to improve transboundary cooperation will contribute a lot to getting SDG 6 on track and making our water cycle more resilient. These efforts are therefore integral part of the SDG 6 Global Acceleration Framework, which is our common unifying initiative to achieve the SDGs by 2030. ISARM 2021 also prepares the ground for what is going to happen next year, in 2022. The whole year is dedicated to groundwater, to make the invisible visible. World Water Day will be dedicated to groundwater. The United Nations World Water Development Report will be dedicated to groundwater. And the campaign will culminate in 1 year in December 2022, actually here at UNESCO headquarters, as UNESCO will be hosting the UN Water Summit on groundwater on 7 and 8 December 2022. The campaign and the summit will also support the preparations for the United Nations 2023 Water Conference, which will take place in New York from 22nd to 24th of March 2023. We cannot overstate how important the UN 2023 Water Conference is. It is the first UN conference on water-related topics in almost 50 years, since Mar del Plata in 1977. So let's work together in our water and sanitation community, but very important, reaching out to the other sectors and the other communities to really make the difference and really bring the change we need. We have a lot of opportunities coming up next year and in 2023. Thank you. Over.
Thank you, Federico, very much for having opened this window to 2022, this year that give us great expectations on groundwater, opening the debate and opening the mind on groundwater resources. next year, so we are looking already at next year, and of course one of the most important events next year in March, in overlapping with the United Nations World Water Day 2022, groundwater making the invisible visible, is the World Water Forum. The next year will be in Dakar, the beautiful capital of Senegal. And we have the great pleasure to have as a testimony with us this afternoon, Mr. Abdoulaye Sene, who is the co-president of the International Steering Committee of the 9th World Water Forum. Mr. Sene, we listen to you.
Merci bien, Alice. Mon cher Abou Amani, mesdames et messieurs, c'est avec un grand plaisir que je prends part à cette conférence organisée par l'UNESCO sur les eaux souterraines. Vous me permettrez avant tout de saluer et de remercier les organisateurs, les participants et plus particulièrement l'UNESCO pour la haute attention accordée au processus préparatoire du 9e Forum mondial de l'eau qui entre dans sa dernière ligne droite. Je voudrais rappeler ici que le thème du forum, qui se tiendra du 21 au 26 mars 2021, la sécurité de l'eau pour la paix et le développement, prend parfaitement en compte le thème central de cette semaine de conférence que vous avez organisée sur le thème Aquifers transfrontaliers. Les sujets qui ont été abordés tout au long de cette semaine sur les aquifères transfrontaliers sont d'une très grande importance partout et tout particulièrement en Afrique, un continent qui demeure encore très fortement en retard sur la mise en valeur de ses ressources en eau pour atteindre les objectifs de développement durable. Nous savons tous que l'état des lieux sur l'objectif de développement durable numéro 6 et la sécurité alimentaire sur le continent africain reste aujourd'hui très préoccupant. Les recommandations que je viens de suivre à travers les synthèses qui ont été brillamment présentées par les différents experts seront sans aucun doute des inputs de haute valeur ajoutée pour le 9e Forum mondial de l'eau, dont l'un des objectifs majeurs est l'accélération du processus de réalisation des ODD et en particulier l'ODD numéro 6. En Afrique, nous le savons, les réserves d'eau douce sont estimées comme étant de loin plus importantes que l'eau stockée dans les lacs et les réservoirs. Et selon plusieurs experts, ces réserves sont environ 20 fois plus importantes. Les aquifères sont donc reconnus comme étant une source vitale d'eau potable en Afrique subsaharienne et dans beaucoup de cas, ils sont souvent la seule source d'approvisionnement en eau douce toute l'année, particulièrement dans les zones rurales. Accessible à partir de puits, de forages, de sources, l'eau souterraine reste donc très précieuse pour le développement de l'Afrique. Elle peut être trouvée dans la plupart de nos régions. Et comme je l'ai indiqué tantôt, malgré les problèmes de salinisation et de pollution d'origine naturelle ou anthropique, l'eau souterraine reste souvent la source la plus fiable et la plus pérenne pendant les périodes de sécheresse que beaucoup de nos pays en Afrique subsaharienne connaissent. Comme le changement climatique affecte la fiabilité de l'approvisionnement en eau de surface, plus d'eau douce devra donc être puisée du sous-sol pour soutenir les populations croissantes, pour également irriguer les cultures et pour le développement de l'élevage. Montrer quand, comment et où les aquifères pourraient fournir de l'eau potable et être utilisés de manière durable pour l'agriculture, l'élevage en quantité et en qualité suffisante, tout en préservant les ressources d'eau pour les générations futures, c'est là le cœur des préoccupations de la communauté mondiale. Et la semaine de conférence que nous sommes en train de boucler illustre parfaitement l'importance de cette question. En effet, un défi mondial critique de notre époque, c'est la gestion des ressources naturelles disponibles et trouver le juste équilibre entre la croissance économique et l'utilisation optimale des ressources tout en protégeant les écosystèmes reste une problématique de fond. La plupart des pays africains ont d'ailleurs leur agriculture comme principale source de moyens de subsistance. Et ils affichent pour la plupart une forte dépendance aux puits et aux forages pour le provisionnement en eau des zones rurales que j'ai évoquées, tant pour les besoins domestiques que pour les besoins économiques. Avec des informations documentées très limitées sur les grands aquifères souvent transfrontaliers, il est devenu plus qu'urgent de consolider les connaissances existantes, de développer la coopération entre pays partageant un même bassin pour une exploitation juste et durable de la ressource. Le récent lancement d'ailleurs pour le bassin sénégalo-mauritanien, incluant le Sénégal, la Mauritanie, la Gambie et la Guinée, démontre parfaitement l'importance qu'il y a à développer des études scientifiques pour une meilleure connaissance des bassins partagés. Cela me donne l'occasion de vous confirmer que la question des aquifères sera bien prise en compte dans toutes les 4 priorités du forum. Et c'est l'opportunité qui m'est ainsi offerte de partager d'ailleurs des informations finales sur les avancées de notre feuille de route en direction du forum. Vous le savez, grâce à la plateforme digitale, nous avons pu aujourd'hui consolider 92 propositions de session qui sont en train d'être finalisées pour que le programme du forum soit disponible avant la fin du mois de décembre. Vous savez également que nous sommes en train de réfléchir sur le positionnement de l'eau au cœur de l'agenda africain. Nous venons de terminer une importante réunion du Conseil des ministres africains AMCAO et il a été décidé et confirmé qu'un sommet extraordinaire de l'Union africaine sera tenu en marge du forum, et ceci pour alimenter et donner une dimension politique forte au forum. Et ce forum sera pour nous une pièce maîtresse dans la préparation de tout ce qui est en train de se faire en direction de la grande conférence de 2023. En un mot, je voudrais vous dire qu'autant au plan de l'élaboration du contenu thématique, de la promotion du forum, de la mobilisation des acteurs, qu'au niveau également de la préparation logistique, le Sénégal, comme il l'a démontré lors de la dernière réunion des parties prenantes, est actuellement prêt à accueillir le forum qui est attendu en mars 2022. Nous aurons donc l'occasion, avec votre forte présence à nos côtés, pour le forum, mais d'ici le forum aussi dans sa préparation, d'assurer des contributions significatives pour que nous puissions ensemble, dans les sessions, dans les événements parallèles, dans l'exposition, que nous puissions véritablement illustrer ce qui devrait nous permettre de faire un forum de succès.
It can forge ahead in order to make this forum a success, and this will allow us to strengthen water security, peace and development, and with that we will rely on Aquifer. And I hope and I will look forward to meeting you in Dakar in next March. Yes, we look forward to coming to Dakar, and we hope we will all be able to attend this forum in Dakar. As you will be aware, Ms. Azoulay, the Director General of UNESCO, has just confirmed that the Africa priority will be strongly maintained at UNESCO in all sectors: science, education, culture, communication, gender. And of course, as you know, the IHP has strongly cooperated with with other organizations in signing a memorandum of understanding, and I look forward to meeting you in the next forum in March. I'd like to give the floor now to one of the main actors of the key meetings due to take place next year for the World Water Week in Stockholm. And I would like Ms. Karine Gardes to join us, to take the floor. She's the Chief Operating Officer of the Stockholm International Water Institute, SIWI.
We would also hope very much to be all in Stockholm next August together. Karine, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. J'allais effectivement justement vous dire la même chose.
Thank you very much. I was about to say exactly the same thing and to wish you a warm welcome to Stockholm for this special week.
By thanking the organizers for, of course, giving SIWI and myself an opportunity to share some perspectives in this closing ceremony, but also to congratulate you on what I know has been a very intensive week, but also where the richness of the discussions will most definitely feed into all of the upcoming conferences and events. The world's fresh water is really under unprecedented pressure from both fast rising temperatures, population growth, consumption patterns. And to address this global water crisis and the climate stress, the World Water Week 2022, hosted by SIWI, will focus on how we value water. How we value water. Let me just repeat that so that the theme is really well understood. So revealing and understanding the value of water will trigger what we hope, of course, very much needed decisions, innovations and investments in managing water better. So the third week of August, 30th, I think, edition of the World Water Week will focus on this, seeing the unseen, the value of water. Water, including groundwater, is really, as we perceive it, a connector. It provides different opportunities as a dialogue entry point for water cooperation. What we see in our work on a daily basis at SIWI is really how linking technical, scientific tracks and track focusing more on building and strengthening relations between countries and stakeholders work very well together under this water umbrella, if I can call it like that, where really talking about water can be an entry point, a door opener to actually talk about more difficult matters at time. And we at SIWI, we focus, among other things, on making technical and scientific knowledge more accessible to decision makers. And we do this through different dialogue platforms, one of them being indeed the World Water Week, focusing on how to turn shared risks into shared opportunities and to strengthen the stability and the resilience to climate change. And here the power of communication cannot be underestimated. We are very committed to narrowing the space in which information is made available and where disinformation campaigns are really not acceptable. When talking about water, at SIWI, we would really emphasize very much putting people at the core and at the center. Water is essential for human security. And we at SIWI, also through the International Center for Water Cooperation, a UNESCO Category 2 center hosted also by SIWI, we very much welcome opportunities like this conference to share knowledge and exchange ideas. But we also see it as an opportunity to elevate voices and knowledge from regions where water scarcity very seriously impacts human security. And this is an important part of our work, for instance, with water and peace issues. As SDG 17 reminds us, the focus is also on partnerships. None of us can do this alone. And we at SIWI value partnerships very much, not least the partnership with UNESCO, for instance, but partnership also through our many networks and all of our partners joining us annually for the World Water Week. So the World Water Week 2022 will hopefully be a global conversation about valuing water, in which we will also shine some light on the world's most forgotten water, the vast majority of fresh water that is hidden in groundwater aquifers, in the soil, or in the atmosphere. We will also look at virtual water, the water that is required to produce goods and services. And of course, the whole water cycle linking fresh water and oceans. World Water Week 2022 will hopefully communicate simply and clearly the value of water for human and societal activities. As people and nations gain a better understanding of how important water is to their lives and to everything they care about, they place a higher value on it. This creates this virtuous circle and cycle that we all want to see, in which people care for water better, manage and share it more equitably, and waste or pollute it less, so that the water can generate more benefits for people and nature. During the week, we will explore the value of water from many different perspectives. One starting point will be, of course, how improved water management and governance can help us achieve the 2030 Agenda and the Global Sustainable Development Goals, number 6, of course, but even others, I would say. And also the targets of the Paris Agreement on climate change. We will more likely to succeed if we really understand the value that water brings. And time is not on our side, honestly. We need to do something rather quickly if we are to address and achieve our goals. So valuing water, as we see it, is really a tool to achieving the society's aims and contributing to indeed a more sustainable, peaceful, and secure future. It's also a politically charged topic with implications for global trade, business models, political systems, international law, and we cannot ignore those questions when we talk about the value of water. How we value water touches on some fundamental social, cultural, and spiritual values, but it also paves the way for more peaceful, stable, healthy, and prosperous societies and a more sustainable future for all. People around the world, and I think this conference has really shown that, Alice, people around the world want to discuss these diverse aspects of water and want to understand how others view and value water. So World Water Week 2022 offers a platform for this important global conversation to actually happen. And we're more than happy to welcome you all. It will be a hybrid conference, so both physically in Stockholm, you're more than welcome. August is actually nice in Stockholm, but also virtual in order to allow as many participants as possible. And hopefully the many sessions that we will organize will help to uncover water's full value to society. Within the overall theme of seeing the unseen, the value of water, the sessions will be grouped under 3 main headings, I would say. First, the value of water for people and development. Second theme, the financial and economic value of water. And the third theme, the value of water for nature and climate change. So you see all the different perspectives are actually there covering and covered hopefully during these days of the World Water Week. And the debates and outcomes of the World Water Week 2022 will definitely feed into the discussions of the UN Conference on Water 2023, and also looking further ahead, the Global Climate Action Pathway on Water will also hopefully benefit from the discussions that will kickstart at World Water Week 2022. So with this, thank you so very much again for a brilliantly organized conference. Thank you so much for allowing Siwi and myself to be in the closing ceremony. And you are all very, very welcome to Stockholm for World Water Week 2022. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Karin. We will be all in Stockholm. And let me say that even if UNESCO was always a very active actors of all, since the very beginning of World Water Week in Stockholm, we should thank you, SIWI, for inviting UNESCO to be the special partner next year of SIWI in the Water Week. We are actively working with the team already. And well, we are definitely proud to be hands in hands with SIWI, bringing more groundwater, these unseen, more seen, valuing more groundwater with you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, we are already looking at 2022 with the forum, with UN Water. Federico was there, with Karin. One of the decision of UN Water for next year has been to request the UN Water members and partners also to organize a groundwater summit, as Federico said, here in UNESCO, the 7 and 8 in 1 year from now, here in UNESCO in December next year. And one of the main partners identified by UN Water with UNESCO for the organization of the World Water Day, Groundwater, Make Visible the Invisible, and the Groundwater Summit is the International Groundwater Resources Assessment Center, IGRAC, because IGRAC, since its inception, has provided great support around the world for the improvement of the knowledge, the mapping of groundwater resources of the world. The IGRAC new map just been produced and presented at this conference is giving us a more updated vision of the transboundary aquifers around the world. And it's a great pleasure now to have in this particular moment, the Deputy Permanent Delegate of the Kingdom of the Netherlands to UNESCO, Miss Eunice Den Hout, my Italian accent, sorry lady, and the Assistant Director General for Science of UNESCO, Madame Shamila Nair Bodouel, for an historical moment, the signature of the renewal of the agreement between UNESCO and the Kingdom of the Netherlands of the International Groundwater Resource Assessment Center. The signature of the renewal that is taking place right now. The floor is with you, Madame. I think you speak first.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, our dear colleague, Dr. Alicia Orelli. Thank you for inviting us to this signing ceremony. And thank you to dear Abu, our director, and all the other colleagues present here today for this really exceptional event. Mrs. Eunice Den Hout, Deputy Permanent Delegate of the Kingdom of the Netherlands to UNESCO, Excellencies, participants of the ISARM2021 conference, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to express my gratitude, my sincere gratitude to the government of the Netherlands for its cooperation with regards to the renewal of this International Groundwater Resources Assessment Center in the Netherlands called IGRAC, I-G-R-A-C, as a center under the auspices of UNESCO. For many decades now, as you all are aware, and as recently highlighted during the opening ceremony of ISARM 2021, the contribution of the Netherlands to the UNESCO Intergovernmental Hydrological Programme has been invaluable. The centers in the Netherlands, known as the IHE Delft and IGRAC, have played a major role in the programme, as well as the universities of the Netherlands. The practitioners from the Netherlands have provided significant expertise around crucial issues on the scientific aspects of water management and governance, as well as capacity development and hydrodiplomacy. Furthermore, these same practitioners will also be instrumental in the implementation of the new strategic plan for UNESCO IHP, known as the IHP 9. Since 2011, IGRAC has been a partner in producing and disseminating information and knowledge on groundwater resources of the world. This includes the map of the transboundary aquifers of the world, which incorporates data from numerous UNESCO projects. And indeed, it is a flagship publication of our organization. It is referenced by scientists and policymakers worldwide. In recognition of the quality of its work and given the strategic importance of groundwater monitoring and assessment globally, the evaluation of IGRAC recommended that its status as a UNESCO Category 2 center should be renewed. UNESCO relies on the continuation of such proven expertise. Indeed, during 2022, IGRAC, together with UNESCO, will jointly coordinate the UN Water Task Force in charge of the campaign and celebrations for the World Water Day, under the theme, Groundwater, Making the Invisible Visible. Throughout the coming year, IGRAC and UNESCO will work together to prepare the participation in water-related events, culminating in the UN Water Summit on Groundwater that will be held in December 22. We look forward to welcome you all at headquarters and your participation in this unique event. All these events will pave our common route towards the UN 2023 Water Conference, and the Netherlands, as co-host in turn, can count on UNESCO's renewed efforts to make this conference a success. Excellencies, dear Madam Deputy Delegate, UNESCO looks forward to continuing the fruitful collaboration with the Netherlands and IGRAC as a member of its water family to fulfill our common mission, providing member states with science for a water-secure world in a changing environment and accelerating progress towards the achievement of SDG 6 and its targets. Personally, I want to thank you very much for this collaboration. I thank all the partners who are present with us here today, and I thank my colleagues, Alicia Aurelie and Abu Amani, for their continued support, and Mrs. Ray. Thank you very much for being with us, Mrs. Stephen. Dear participants, water is valuable. Every drop counts. Groundwater is really quite precious. And as our colleague from SIWI indicated, we need to also look at the culture of water and valorizing the invisible. We look forward to working with you and ensuring the success of IGRAC as a valuable partner to providing support to all our countries across the world. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam ADG. And I just wanted to say that I'm very happy to be here to sign with you this important agreement on behalf of the Kingdom of the Netherlands. This agreement makes the global groundwater cooperation very concrete because it confirms that IGRAC will remain the center where global knowledge and expertise on groundwater can be shared. IGRAC is a long success story. The Dutch commitment to IGRAC started 17 years ago in 2003, when it was hosted in the Netherlands. This commitment was strengthened in 2011 when IGRAC became a UNESCO Category 2 center, meaning a full member of UNESCO's water family. And today, 10 years later, the story continues because with this agreement, we add another 6 years to this success story. This is a motivating example of concrete and hands-on international water cooperation through UNESCO and UNESCO's Intergovernmental Hydrological Program. International water cooperation is, like any other international cooperation, a story of people. In this regard, I would like to express my gratefulness to the director of IHP, Dr. Abu Amani, for leading IHP and UNESCO's water family in a very strategic and tactful way. And of course, I will not forget to thank our dear friend Alice Aurelie, UNESCO's chief of groundwater. And there's one other person that I would like to thank. IGRAC would not have been possible without the continuous leadership of one person, Neno Kukovic. He's the director who imagined and developed IGRAC from the beginning. It's Neno who, with the help from his team, gave IGRAC the global reputation on groundwater expertise that it is now known for. Let me look at 2022 for briefly, because that will be the year where all the work done by IGRAC will flourish and show to the world how useful it is. And last but not least, I would like to warmly welcome the French hydrologist Elisabeth Lichtervoet, who will succeed Neno. Thank you very much. And
Thank you very much. It's definitely a very important contribution of IGRAC to us. Having said that, the conference had several important partners. The International Association of Hydrogeologists, the International Water Resource Association, the UNECE, a very close partner to us, with whom we have just published a report of the SDG 6 indicator 652, will be very soon available in the 6 languages of the UN. And these will give you the details of the monitoring with 153 countries on the situation on water cooperation on transboundary waters. And one of the partners with whom we have a very close coordination and cooperation, thanks to their support to the countries that are interested in improving their capacity on transboundary water, is the Global Environment Facility. And if the Secretariat now can provide us the video that the girl, the great friend Astrid Healers has prepared for us. Astrid is the International Waters GEF Senior Environmental Specialist. And as you remember at the opening, the GEF CEO was with us. And Astrid is working hands in hands with UNESCO in many projects on transboundary aquifers around the world. Can we have the video? Thank you. Thank you.
Dear Excellencies, hosts, colleagues, and friends, thank you to our UNESCO host and congratulations to all participants to making the second conference on transboundary aquifers happen. Unfortunately, the GEF International Waters team could not be with you very much over the last days, as we are holding the GEF Council meetings at this very time. Groundwater, though, has been an explicit highlight in recent GEF strategies on international waters, but also transgresses other focal areas and funding windows of the GEF and the integrated programs. In terms of transboundary aquifers alone, GEF has provided support to now 18 transboundary aquifers and aquifer systems so far, and in addition, a number of transboundary river basin projects, of course, also include attention to groundwater and conjunctive management. Most of these projects have and are working with partners around the room here, the virtual room, including efforts on the global level, like the Global Groundwater Governance Project some years back, the Transboundary Water Assessment Program, TWAP, and now GF's participation in other partnerships and fora, like the GRIP initiative with over 30 partners now and coordinated by EMI. Over the last days, you discussed your experiences and the role of groundwater. It is essential for rural survival, urban development, food security, and maybe less talked about also for environmental flows and maintenance of ecosystems, and supporting resilience in extending water supplies in times of drought. And on the flip side, we have seen the destabilizing effects water insecurity can have when people lack other means to cope, and increasing the risk of migration and contributing to destabilization and conflict. We heard all of this and much more over the last days, but where do we need to go? What is missing? What are the bottlenecks? From where I sit, there are a number of quick observations I want to throw out. One, the pervasive myth of plenty. Still, it's there. There's 98-point-something% and counting of fresh water, which is underground. It's plenty. And until there's a serious problem and the wells fall dry and have to get deeper, the role of groundwater is often undervalued. Second, groundwater is hidden, yes, and there's unknown amounts, so no wonder its governance lags behind. Starting with the basic questions. Number 3, who owns it? Often land and water rights are not decoupled, and this can encourage uses without considering the consequences beyond private land boundaries. There are often no permits needed, and landowners can use groundwater at will. 4, even where groundwater is a public good and a permit system exists, these permits are often neither monitored nor enforced. Now, transboundary cooperation and governance is therefore often even slower to come about than cooperation on surface water. You need to know much more to engage. Figure out the flow directions, the amounts that are underground, and the impacts of one country's withdrawals on the other. So there are less obvious initial motivations to cooperate. 6, conjunctive management challenges in transboundary contexts are even more complex. The extent of the surface and groundwater basins obviously differ. The bordering countries then often differ as well, and the interactions between surface and groundwater resources are often relatively unclear, posing both legal and management challenges. The complexity that this presents often causes reluctance to include groundwater in basin agreements. 7, groundwater quality. Both anthropogenic and natural pollution are a widespread and growing problem and often still entirely overlooked. And there's a lack of information on groundwater quality all around and lack of capacities to assess it. And at the same time, the costs and time needed for groundwater and soil cleanup are extremely high. Number 8, investments in innovations. Much more is needed at the present point, including to increase knowledge and application of nature-based solutions, which could be a very valuable path, among others, to move forward to address both recharge and cleanup of contaminants, including resource and infiltration of water, recharge in upstream watersheds to avoid day zero in urban settings, innovative payment for ecosystem services schemes, and increased experience interchange on innovative issues such as bioremediation in situ. One observable trend from GF side, we have seen more demand lately for support on groundwater and transboundary groundwater management. And interestingly, it seems due to the many unknowns and where there is not yet critical depletion, such cooperation, initially at least, appears to be less loaded with as much historical sensitivities and tensions. So this is not a universal statement. It is a gentle observation in many of the recent GF-supported projects. One last challenge to all of us, may it government, academia, or funders, can we be more strategic in reaching cross-sectoral audiences? We talk about the nexus and the relevance of groundwater for resilience, for water supplies and health and food and ecosystems and industries, but are we doing an effective effort, and are we doing enough to participate in the relevant fora for these other user groups? Are we approaching ag producers? Are we in cities fora? Or assure participation of these other stakeholders in water-related events? Going into 2022, there's a unique opportunity to create greater awareness and attention to groundwater. From our side, of course, we're also hoping for a strong GF replenishment in 2022 and enabling us to scale up our partnerships with you and others in integrated approaches to addressing water security for people and ecosystems, for which sustainable groundwater management holds a large key. Let's work together to use 2022 to make the invisible visible and start to move the needle on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Astrid. Thank you so much. And thank you, Astrid. Thank you so much. And thank you, Astrid. Thank you very much for your words. And we have now to look at the new generation that take this message forward and change. We really hope will change the situation. And in this regard, I'm absolutely pleased to see with us today another women scientist representing the new generation of scientists that are looking at improving environmental cooperation. Madame Letizia Zuliani, she has great experience as a project assistant at the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, the OSCE. I'm also very much pleased, Letizia, because I can say that we did our best in this conference to have a high percentage of young scientists with us. And in fact, the statistics are very good on that. And really also a great number of women scientists were with us below 30 years old. We will listen to you, and we know that there is the Youth Parliament of Water, that it's a voice that we would like to have more close to us on groundwater next year, the year of groundwater. Thank you, Letizia, to be with us.
Thank you so much, Excellencies, your colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, and my esteemed young friends. It's really a pleasure and an honor to deliver this statement on behalf of young water professionals. I would like to thank the World Youth Parliament for Water for reaching out and inviting me to participate and share my vision on youth inclusion in this field. I would also like to express my gratitude to the UNESCO Intergovernmental Hydrological Program for organizing this conference, first of all, and for supporting the participation of youth in their programming. As we have witnessed during these 4 days of high-level debates, everyone benefits from a sustainable supply of clean groundwater. This is not always visible, and people, mainly young people, may not be aware of that because they feel less connected to groundwater. And this was very different in the past when our grandparents directly depended on groundwater for irrigation or agricultural purposes, and the resource influenced their sustenance directly. But whether this resource is the source of our drinking water or the water used to prepare the food on our tables, groundwater is vital to life. And this is the largest youth generation in human history. And there are many challenges facing us. And it is only by including young people that we can properly address groundwater challenges, contributing to the achievement of SDG 6 on water and sanitation, to sustainably manage transboundary aquifers for the generations to come. Empowering youth and defining mechanisms that enable them and their engagement and integration in different political processes is critical in getting their voices heard and their needs met. So what are the steps that we, the Youth World Parliament for Water and UNESCO IHP, want to take together to improve meaningful representation of youth in the groundwater sector? Well, first, we want to strengthen youth networks as platform of structured youth engagement in all agendas in the international water community. Bottom-up youth engagement usually comes through a variety of networks, but the meaningful involvement of youth in the water sector is generally not possible due to reasons that from lack of political support to absence of appropriate platforms that encourage and support youth participation. So we want to create ways for meaningful youth participation and leadership in groundwater by giving youth a seat at the table, at the decision-making table, and include them in public participation processes, both as participants, but also as organizers. Second, we want to make groundwater more attractive for youth to get involved with and highlight how this resource is connected to hot topics such as climate change, transboundary cooperation, peace, and security. Groundwater and surface water are, of course, intrinsically connected. They are both really important to healthy ecosystems, as we all know. But surface water currently receives more attention because it is more visible. So it is important that we draw more attention to groundwater resources and to their connection to surface water. And also, where groundwater resources are not extensively used, local communities and also young people may not be aware of them. So in this area, we really have to raise awareness on the importance of safeguarding groundwater and provide ways to do so by improving communication strategies to better reach out to younger generations and encourage their meaningful participations. Which leads to my third and last point. We want to provide with youth with capacity building opportunities. People working on the groundwater sector may come from a variety of backgrounds. So tailored workshops, mentoring programs can give them the skills and the knowledge they need to advance in this sector, while providing easy and free access to data and tools and connecting them with researchers and senior professionals in the field. Together, we can make the groundwater sector ready for the future. And I look forward to our collaboration with the UNESCO IHP on this mission. And I'll also call on leaders to listen to the voices of young people and involve them meaningfully in all decision-making that affects our life. Because our message is simple, we want to participate and we want to be at the forefront of change. And we are ready to invest our time and our efforts in shaping this change. So thank you again to the UNESCO IHP for the continued work on youth involvement. And thank you all for your kind attention.
Thank you, Letizia. Thank you very much. And I can simply say that we are here to listen. Tell us, what do you need? What the Water Parliament, Youth Parliament needs from us. We will try to do our best. And definitely, we will listen to you and the idea also for innovations that are coming from the new generation that are really interesting. Next year, you will have all our attention, for sure, for sure. We will follow you on your decisions. Now, before to close with the last closing speech, normally we thank the interpreters at the very end, but the interpreters are one of the main important group of participants of all conference, and in particular of the UN conference and UNESCO conference. So I would like really to thank them very much. We work hands in hands with them, and it's a great pleasure to have so high-level specialists. Well, my role is handing, and I'm very pleased to ask Abu Amani, my colleague and the director of the Division of Water Sciences, so many years of friendship. I can say that because I'm almost at the end of my travel in UNESCO, while Abu is with many years in front of him. So he has a big legacy and challenge on his hands on groundwater, when I will not be there anymore recording that. And definitely he is the secretary of the Intergovernmental Hydrological Program. I'm very happy to have the IHP in his hands. Abu, the floor is yours to close the conference. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Alice, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, colleagues. After 4 very intensive days discussions on groundwater, transboundary groundwater, I believe that everything has been said and covered. But let me, before coming to the different things, to stress on few issues I believe that we need to consider. Indeed, the importance of groundwater has identified and highlighted by many speakers. So I don't want to come back on it, but let me stress on, as I said, on 2-3 issues. The first one is we're still lagging behind on the knowledge base when it comes to groundwater. We need to continue working together to improve the knowledge base so that we can provide meaningful information for evidence-based decision-making in sustainably managing groundwater resources. The other issues I want to stress concern the capacity development. Generally, in many of projects in water supply where we know that groundwater is in many rural areas, the main contributor to the basic needs, unfortunately, there is a missing element, which is having the right capacity to sustain the water supply systems. So capacity, as it has been identified within the SDG 6 Global Acceleration Framework, is a key element on which we have to continue working so that we can support countries to enhance their capacity so that they can address the issue of sustainable management of water resources well equipped. The third point I want to stress concerns the critical need of cooperation. The conference was on transboundary water cooperation, and we all heard what's going on vis-a-vis the situation of transboundary water cooperation. And I believe that this is something also on which we should continue supporting member states, encouraging them in promoting transboundary water cooperation, because we believe that that is a right way to go if you want to manage in a sustainable way our water resources, which are in majority transboundary water resources. And as you know, UNESCO and UNICE are in charge of the SDG 6 Indicator 6.5.2, promoting transboundary water cooperation. And we will continue doing so and providing the support to member states to build the cooperation which is needed. The last point I want to stress on is the issue of visibility, raising the profile of groundwater. We have heard about the value of groundwater, the importance of groundwater, but still, groundwater is not receiving the attention it deserves. And we are very lucky that next year is a huge opportunity groundwater community has in order to work together to raise the profile of groundwater. With the World Water Day campaign led by UNESCO, with all the other UN Water members, with the World Water Development Report dedicated on groundwater, with the Groundwater Summit. So we have, as I said, a huge opportunity so that decision makers can truly understand the true value of groundwater so that they can put the necessary means in safeguarding and protecting developing groundwater resources. So this is really an opportunity we have, but it shouldn't end in 2022, because it will be, in that case, a very missing opportunity. All the messages which will be gathered next year should, and I think we should make all effort to bring them at the UN Water Conference 2023, so that groundwater could be meaningfully considered as key part of water resources. Still, when we say water resources, people are looking at rivers. But when we say water resources, we should consider both surface and groundwater. And I believe that this message should be conveyed at this highest level of intergovernmental conference in 2023. So this opportunity, we should not miss that opportunity. So with those messages, I want to come back with special thanks, because we cannot organize such kind of huge conference, which is taking time, at least 1 year to prepare. So I would like really to appreciate and to thank our partners in organizing this conference. We have the IAH, UNICE, JEF, AWRA, and the UNESCO centers, IGRAC, which I'm very pleased to witness the signature of the renewal of the agreement between UNESCO and the government of Netherlands. And also Seregas. I want also to appreciate the fact that some of our sister agencies also were present, attended this gathering, and particularly our colleague also appreciate the participation of our colleague from UN Water, represented by Federico, the chief technical advisor. So we are really appreciating it. But the most important concerns the speakers, the panelists, the moderators, and all the participants. Because without them, there is no conference. No conference without those people. You made this conference successful, so thank you very much. During the opening ceremony, there were some figures, but I will not come on those figures. But I want to stress the fact that the concrete follow-up of this conference will be the publication of peer-reviewed papers, which will be selected, peer-reviewed, and then published in well-renowned journals. And also, in addition to that, we'll have concrete key recommendation, actionable key recommendation for decision makers, which will be element of the outcome of this conference. So lastly, really my special thanks to you, Alicia. Special thanks, because all the dedication you put in organizing this conference, with all the team, with all the meetings, all the day, night, in making this happen successfully. I'm very, very grateful for this, Alicia, and thank you for that, and to all the team behind, because we cannot make this happen without a team. And I want to extend that thanks to all the division. Also, thank you for that. And also to all the committees, organizing committees, advisory committees, looking at the different papers. So thank you very much for that. And of course, we should have others. I think she has already thanked the interpreters. But I believe also we have to thank those who are behind the scene, we are not seeing them, who made this conference a success. So thank you very much. And I'm very, very pleased, as I said, very, really pleased for this conference. We are looking forward to continue engaging with you throughout the whole next year, what we are calling it the year of groundwater. And we are looking forward to continue engaging with you. And with that, I declare the conference closed.
was very nice.